This is the GTN Show, brought to you by Amp Human. Welcome. After a lot of recent hype around a certain running shoe, I've got a different question to ask you. Do you think triathlon bikes should be banned? Well, to help me answer that question, I'm going to be enlisting the help of an expert who's going to be joining me in a moment. We've also got a giveaway from Amp Human, 2 fairly big races to cover after the weekend, as well as plenty of photos, both from you guys and from us, which I'm going to be sharing back with you. All right, let's get straight to the point. It's a pretty big question. Why should triathlon bikes be banned? Well, this all came about from the comments on the back of last week's show when we discussed the controversial Nike Alpha Fly, which saw Eliud Kipchoge break that 2-hour marathon in the Ineos 159 challenge. And admittedly, that exact shoe has been banned, but Nike have now announced that they're going to be producing a different type of the Alpha Fly, one that actually fits within the perimeters. So a shoe that isn't more than 40 mil in width of its foam and doesn't have more than 1 carbon plate. Now, World Athletics have made these rules, and it seems as though triathlon are at least going to see part of that rule coming across, because the ITU, the Triathlon Federation, runs the governing body for an Olympic sport, and the World Athletics rules are the same for the Olympics, and therefore triathlon is going to have to follow those when it comes to Olympic racing. Under Ironman, it's a little bit more vague. There doesn't seem to be a statement out at the moment, but we presume that Ironman and all of triathlon is going to follow the same rule with these shoes, and whether there'll be any others made, we don't know. But that then gets the question asking, so why, if we follow the athletics rules, do we not follow the UCI rules when it comes to triathlon bikes? And it got a lot of you really kind of airing your opinions on the comment section. So we've got a few of those to share from the show last week. Cart Guy 76 says using an IAAF banned shoe is no different than using a non-UCI legal bike. And that had several comments underneath it, including one from Pete Fry, who says, very good point. Both Rinny and Reef have won Kona on non-UCI legal bikes. Do they feel like they cheated, as Mark suggested, about winning with the shoes? I doubt it. Yeah, very good point. They have been riding the Felt AR, actually the bike that Mark and Fraser have at the moment. So you could ask them that question. And then another comment here from Julien Boulot. All triathlon bikes are banned by the UCI. Don't see why triathletes should feel any different about shoes. So it got me thinking, how important is technology in going fast? And is it fair that we've got way slacker rules than the UCI? And how much do we actually gain in aerodynamics? Well, someone who knows a lot more about aero gains than myself is GTN presenter Ollie, who I'm delighted to say is going to be joining me today. Ollie, thank you very much. I gather you've got a significant challenge coming up that's very much related to aero gains. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be having a go at the hour record, right? But I'm not trying to break the hour record, which is currently held by Victor Campenaerts. That's a bit out of my reach. But what we want to do is look at Eddie Merckx's hour record from 1972, which he did without any kind of modern aero tech, and see what difference 50 years aero tech can make. Can it make someone very genetically average like myself be as fast as Eddie Merckx, the greatest of all time, back in 1972.
And what are the most significant changes that you've made to your current setup and current equipment that have made the biggest impact in your speed you're able to go at the moment in your training?
Without doubt, position on the bike. Like, the biggest aerodynamic obstacle is you, and so the position is the biggest thing. So, you know, in terms of how the position is for road cyclists versus triathletes, there are a lot more restrictions on how you can have that position. So that's quite interesting. Like, you could potentially be significantly faster as a triathlete, just down to position.
What is it in the position that you would change then, that if you were a triathlete from your position you've got now that's sort of UCI legal?
The main one for me is the position at the front end and of your hands. You know, with, like, my hands are pretty high, but, you know, triathletes can have their hands as high as they want, and you know, you can get them right really high up into your face.
That
Whereas there's a 10 centimetre rule for cyclists, and you know, that potentially makes you a lot faster. But the stupid thing is, and this is why I think they should get rid of this rule for cyclists and actually be more like triathletes. Yeah, I can't believe I just said that.
We're going to play this back to GCN.
I'll get fired. Is what you get now is you see the best time trialists, they hold on to their tri bars with their little fingers so that they get their hands higher.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's less safe, but there's no rule saying you can't do that. So it makes sense for cyclists just to be allowed for the UCI to get rid of that rule and just allow higher tri-bars.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you had triathletes riding Ironman Bolton course having to hold on with their little fingers. I mean, that could be kind of lethal, like going over potholes.
Cyclists
actually out on the road, not just on the track.
Yeah, elite cyclists.
Yeah, that's another level, I guess.
Are doing that, and it's ludicrous, really.
And what about our actual bikes? If you look at the triathlon bike, outside of the kind of rules of saddle position and front end position, is there any triathlon bike you envy or you think there's a load of aero gains in that bike compared to a UCI bike? And you've seen some in the office, we've had the P5X in the past and bikes like that. Are there any bikes that you look at and think, wish the rules would be slacker for UCI that we could really gain from that? Yeah,
if they're faster, then I want one. I don't think bike design should be stifled by those rules. I think it makes no sense to do that. Obviously to a point, and that's the problem. Otherwise you end up, where does it stop? We all end up in fared recumbents.
So, I mean, where are the rules going to be? Because, we've just seen the whole talking point that I was mentioning before you came along was, this came about from the shoe.
Yeah.
And, the World Athletics have banned the shoe, and it looks like triathlon aren't actually going to be using that shoe. But we have a different rule and we ignore UCI rules. So do you actually think that triathlon bikes should still be allowed, or do you think that they should be banned and there should just be one rule for bikes like there is potentially one rule for shoes?
No.
There we go. We heard it from Ollie.
I don't think they should, but I think there should be some rules in place, just not the current UCI rules. There has to be rules in place, otherwise you end up with fared recumbents.
Okay.
Where does it end?
Where does it end?
And we want to keep it looking like and also draw the line on sock length as well.
Out of here. Okay, Ollie, thank you very much. You just spoiled it then, but thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the rest of your training and good luck on Monday.
Work hard sculpting your calves. You want to show them off.
Off you go. Thank you. Well, you've heard Ollie's answer. It's now my turn to ask you guys the question. So it's a very simple yes or no answer. Do you think triathlon bikes should be banned? And you can vote on that by just clicking up here. And if you've got any really strong thoughts, then make sure you share them with us in the comments section below. And then for the results of last week's poll, when we asked, will Canworth racing with Ineos as a pro cyclist actually increase his chances of winning Kona this year? And 58% of you said yes, 42% said no. So fairly even split, and we'll have to wait until September, till October even, to find out. Well, it is giveaway time, and this week we've got a very generous prize from our partners at Amp Human. And for those of you who haven't watched one of our earlier shows when we've actually talked about this, well, it's a PR lotion that's got the sodium bicarbonate actually dissolved into the lotion in a way that can then be absorbed through your skin. Now, you might be wondering what sodium bicarbonate is. Well, it's basically acts as a buffer to lactic acid, so it allows you to push yourself that bit further, and it also has been proven to help with recovery. So that's enough about what it is. Now, what's on offer? Well, each champion kit contains 3 of the PR lotions, then a packet of 5 sachets of PR lotion, so perfect for keeping in your kit bag or on a race day, an Amp Human buff and an Amp Human towel. And we've got 5 of these champion kits to give away. And if you're wanting to know how, then all you need to do is click on the link in the description below and there'll be some instructions for you to follow there. It's time for Tri News, and yes, I am still going on about running shoes, but before you just bear with me, hold on a moment, because I am not talking about anything to do with thick foam or carbon plates. I am in fact talking about the first biodegradable shoe from Saucony. Now, we've had shoes made from recycled products in the past. Well, now this is a shoe that's actually designed to be recycled. Although before we get too excited, this shoe is going to be a lifestyle trainer, but I guess we do have to start somewhere, and it's going to be made from natural and renewable resources. It actually requires less electricity to make than their normal models. So it's sustainable, I guess, in 2 aspects. And the idea is that once you've got your lifespan out of that shoe, when it's thrown away, it's then able to biodegrade. And I just hope, though, if you're using it in the UK with all the mud and the rain we've got at the moment, it doesn't start biodegrading prematurely. Right now, looking back at last weekend, which had a couple of of big races. The first up was the Ironman 70.3 in Dubai, and that brought out a pretty packed field, both on the men's and the women's, so much so that we saw both of the course records get broken. The men's race course record was broken by Bart Enots, who took the win a couple of minutes ahead of compatriot Peter Heinrich, also from Belgium, and then it was Adam Bowden who finished in third. On the women's side, it was a dominating performance by Imogen Simmons, who took the win and was the first woman to actually go under 4 hours on that course. And it was a surprising and impressive performance by Daniela Dingham, who actually came home in second place, but she came off the bike in 10th. So with the fastest run of the day, moved up those 8 places to make it onto the podium. Third place went to Pamela Oliveira, who came out of the water first and then hung on to finish third overall. And the other big race was the ITU World Championships Winter Triathlon in Asiago, Italy. And for those of you who don't know, it's all based on snow. It starts with a run on snow with spikes in their shoes, then onto a mountain bike ride, followed off with cross-country ski. So it's pretty full on from the start. And it's fair to say that Russia are rather dominant in this sport. For the men's elite race, it was won by Russia. Pavel Andreev took the gold. It was Marek Rauschfus from the Czech Republic who won the silver. And then Dmitry Brigada, also of Russia, won the bronze in the men's race. The elite women's race was won by Daria Rogozina from Russia. I'll just warn you now, it's a clean sweep for Russia. Anna Medvedeva was second, and then Yulia Surikova was third, all from Russia. So it's probably going to be no surprise that the team mixed relay, which I think was the first time they've actually held this at the World Championships for the Winter Triathlon, was won by Team Russia. Yep, you guessed it. It was Team Italy second and Team Czech Republic who were third. Okay, like I promised, it's time to share some of your photos. We're going to start off with your photos, got one of ours in a moment, but this one has been sent in by Umberto from Wheatgrass Dam, which turns out it's actually in Brazil. That's pretty cool. He says, my friends and I always swim in this dam. It's a great location for training in open water, and it's right next to his home. Pretty lucky there with that one. The water's crystal clear, very hot almost all year round, which I cannot imagine at the moment. On the day of this photo, we decided to go further and set up night training to wait in the water for the full moon to arrive. I mean, that's quite cool. A little bit spooky, but cool if you've got some friends. So awesome picture. And we do love to have swimming photos and running photos as well as our cycling ones. And I know just because it's cold in the Northern Hemisphere, some of you guys in the Southern Hemisphere are enjoying some sunshine. Anyway, this next picture is back to the cold. It's sent in by Lawaldo from Almaty, and he says, just one day in Almaty, track session and a swim. Obviously, this is him doing his track session, or more of a session on a little bit of melted snow that he's actually found some tarmac. But we like to see all angles, so thanks for that. And then this one here is quite sweet. This is sent in by Barthélemy in Quebec in Canada. Apparently he is a coach, because there's a rather interesting piece of kit here. If you look closely, underneath the kicker, he has a custom-made rocker plate that's been designed by one of his athletes, which is pretty unique. I do like that, if rather cool. And then it's also, you might notice if you look closely in the front of the screen there, a Fisher-Price Smart Cycle. I didn't even know such a thing exists, but he says he gets a chance to ride along with his girlfriend and his 3-year-old, as she's just crazy about cycling. Well, that's pretty cool. Also has remote controls to activate the fans, so everything going on in that pain cave, we like it. Next up from Sam, this is looking pretty swish. Giant TCR, which apparently is his, and a Bianchi Aria on the wall, which I presume is maybe his girlfriend's, I don't know. Says, our pain cave, which we spent the last few months perfecting, and it certainly looks perfect if you ask me. They've even hung up all their jerseys and got nice pictures on the wall, so a really beautiful pain cave and a plant. It looks far too nice to actually get sweaty in, but again, a pretty cool one. This picture, back outside now for this one from Alison. She sent it in again from Canada. Looks like Canada might have similar situation to what we've got. She says, been really hard for a week and I woke up to a break in the weather, so I jumped on my gravel bike to make the most of it. Like the way you're thinking there. This picture apparently is from the Spanish banks, and she said the bike and her, it was a muddy mess at the end, but a couple of hours were worth it for some fun in January. So a nice real picture. We can't see the mud, so we're not going to judge you on that one. Some brilliant photos there and a real selection. And just to remind you guys, if you've, whether you're in the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, you're training indoors, outdoors, or you're racing, do share your photos with us, and you can do that using the GTN uploader. All right, it's now time for GTN's Caption competition. And like I said, I'm gonna share some of our photos. Those of you who watched the show last week will have already seen this one of Mark flying through the air. And there's some brilliant captions for it actually. And as Mark's not here, I get to choose the winner. So we had a few runners up because it's quite hard to decide. Affan Pubs says GTN, a 2020 splash hit. I like that one. These next two, I was originally told I wasn't allowed to put in unless I sung them, but I can't do it to you guys because you'd all switch off right now. So I'm afraid you're just gonna have to imagine. Neil Hauser says, I believe I can fly. R. Kelly, you get the idea of that one. And then Dan LP07, near, far, wherever you are. Titanic, standing at the front of the boat. But yeah, sorry, I can't quite add any more to that. Other than that, our final runner-up comes from Staplishish and says, flying mounts, not just for bike starts anymore. I really like that one. But our winner this week is Blue Frenzy 78 with Alpha Fly, Vapor Fly, Mark Fly. Well done to Blue Frenzy. If you get in touch, we will send you one of our GTN swim caps. And this week, we are heading over to the snow for our Caption competition. So it's this one from the ITU Winter World Championships in Asiago, Italy. Do leave us your suggestions in the comments section below. And there's still plenty more coming up this week. We've got a video on how to improve your VO2 max running, so make sure you keep an eye out for that one. We've also got a little Valentine's special on the 14th of February, of course, so watch out for that. And hopefully you have enjoyed today's show. Give us a thumbs up, like if so, and find that globe on screen to make sure you get all of those videos that are coming up. And if you want to check out our GTN kit, then there should be a link to the shop on the screen right now. And then finally, two videos which I think you might like to have a look at. We've got one on how to improve your core and what is core strength. You can find that just down here. And if you want to make your swim training a little bit more fun, well, check out this video here.